Welcome to Touring History XYZ, where we prove that every date is basically 3 different history lessons, depending on when you were born. And let me introduce myself. I'm Dave.
Oh, Dave, they know who you are, and I'm
I know.
Lane. I mean, all
Yay!
of our listeners, both of them, they listen to all our podcasts, Dave.
They
So,
do.
but I guess it's appropriate to introduce ourselves to the new listener today. Today's episode is sponsored by Stu Leonard's, the grocery store that's been creating Instagram-worthy experiences since before Instagram even existed. They've
Wow.
got animatronic singing vegetables, fresh made everything, and a customer service philosophy literally carved in granite.
Carved in stone, Lane. Plus, they figured out that shopping should be fun, not a chore, which feels revolutionary in our age of sterile big box stores, and you know who we're talking about. And Amazon delivery. That
That's true.
darn blue truck is everywhere.
I mean, I'm not going to say Amazon's not convenient because it certainly is. But when's the last time you were excited and having fun experiences you were telling friends about because you were on the Amazon website? That it's just not fun. It's just convenient. But Stu
Well, it's
Leonard's,
fun for someone who can pay for a giant wedding in Venice, Lane. Huh?
that's an experience I'd like to be part of. But
Yeah,
that
that didn't come with my Prime membership, did it?
No, but that's more like Stu Leonard's than it is the Amazon website. So I'm
True.
glad that Jeff is taking a page out of Stu Leonard's. And I wonder if they had apple cider donuts at that wedding, just like they have at Stu Leonard's.
Doubtful.
Because
But
if
let's
they
talk about
didn't, that I think that's why I didn't go, Dave. I know I was thinking about going and being on that in that foam party on his yacht,
yeah,
but
it's we're
without
on the same page. Absolutely.
apple cider donuts, sorry, Jeff. Good luck. I'll send you my gift later.
Yeah. Okay. No foam party.
I'm
Then
sure
on.
an Amazon gift card is fine, right, Jeff? I will send you one of those.
But let's talk about July
Anyway,
1st.
today we're diving into July 1st, and this date is absolutely packed. We've got an
Packed like a sardine can.
that's right. In freshwater or oil, Dave.
Well, it depends on what your skin's like, Lane. Go ahead.
Well, today we've got an economic conference that still runs the world, a government agency that defined the drug war, and a diplomatic moment that officially ended one of the longest political standoffs in modern history.
Oh, wow. I'm chomping at the bit. But first, let's celebrate some birthdays that span from French cinema to hip hop royalty.
All right. Well, July 1st birthday squad includes Leslie Caron at 94, who
Wow.
taught Hollywood that French cinema and American musicals could create magic together.
Yeah, she was so cute in those 50s films. Debbie Harry at
Oh, yeah, good
80,
old Debbie.
who proved that you could be, she doesn't like me to call her that, but she could prove that to be a punk rock goddess was easy and a pop star simultaneously without compromising either identity. She
Yeah, I don't
was,
think she made many compromises at all.
no.
And you know who's also not making compromises anymore? Our next birthday, Pam Anderson at 58, who
Oh,
became a
oh.
global icon by mastering the art of being simultaneously in on the joke and completely serious about it. And now she's doing all of her roles with no makeup at all. She's
Yeah,
no compromises. I'm not impressing anyone. I am who I am.
that's right. She's came from running, jogging down the beach and bouncing up and down to I don't care what I look like anymore.
And she still impresses people.
Oh, yeah, she's a great
Very nice
actor.
person. Very nice person.
Dan Aykroyd is 73 on this date. The comedy genius who somehow made believable characters. Fred Garvin, male prostitute. And Erwin Mainway. Kids, I got a bunch of stuff you'll love. It's
Yeah.
called Bag of Glass.
You know, it is what it is. It's a bag of
That's right.
glass.
The kids love it. Halloween, they wouldn't be without a bag of glass. He did everything from alien hunting government agents to supernatural exterminators.
And don't forget the Coneheads and the
Ah,
Blues Brothers.
Beldar.
That's right. I am Beldar. I am Pre-Matt.
That's right.
Missy Elliott is 54 today, and she revolutionized hip hop by proving that innovation beats imitation every single time.
And who was known as, at some point, before Usain Bolt, the fastest man alive, Carl Lewis at 64, who redefined what fast meant and made it look effortless. Really.
Yes. So that wraps up the birthdays, and we're on to our historical events of the day. And our first event is the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944. And this one's specifically for you, Gen X.
That's right. Ooh, into the woods. July 1st, 1944. The Bretton Woods Conference officially establishes the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, not to be confused with that, Mission Impossible movie, and the World Bank, basically creating the economic system that Gen X watched collapse and rebuild multiple times. Great job, guys.
Yes, as a Gen Xer myself, this is peak Gen X because they're the generation that had to learn that global economic stability is actually just a series of controlled crashes with better marketing.
Well, I like that. Gen X lived through Black Monday, the SNL crisis, the dot-com bubble. Whew, getting tired of these things, and the 2008 housing crash, all while being told that these institutions created at Bretton Woods were protecting them. Don't worry, we got this covered. It might happen again, but we're good. And by the
Yeah.
way, nobody goes to jail.
Yeah, never, never. No one's ever responsible or
Oh,
does
no.
any kind of
No,
crime.
no, no,
No,
no, no.
no.
Trust us.
And the thing that gets me about Gen X and Bretton Woods is they watch the system work exactly as designed, which is to say, it protected the people who designed it and then left everyone else to figure it out.
Right? The IMF and World Bank were supposed to prevent economic chaos. But Gen X learned that they mostly just made economic chaos more profitable for certain people. Remember,
Plus,
nobody went to jail.
no one ever goes to jail. Plus, Gen X entered the job market right when globalization really kicked in. So they got to experience firsthand how these Bretton Woods institutions actually functioned in practice. And it meant there's no more jobs because they all went overseas if you lived in the United States.
That's right, NAFTA schmafta. They watched American manufacturing jobs disappear overseas through trade policies that these institutions promoted, while being told this was economic modernization. Bring back tariffs! Oh, well, here we go, Lane. I have theories about international finance, so just hold on a second. Look, Gen X learned that when economists say the system is working, trust us, they mean it's working for someone else, and that somebody probably isn't you.
Oh yeah, I know that game. Yes. The really Gen X part is that they had to develop financial literacy as a survival skill because they couldn't trust that institutions would actually take care of them the way that they were supposed to.
Yes. Again, trust us. Gen X also watched the 2008 crisis and realized, oh, here we go again, that the same institutions created to prevent economic collapse were the ones that caused it, which is a very specific kind of betrayal. It's called don't listen to a word we're saying, it'll work out. Yeah.
Yeah. Gen X is the generation that learned to be simultaneously grateful for economic stability and deeply suspicious of how that stability was maintained.
Yeah, and you wonder why they elected a socialist for mayor of New York, or
Mm,
actually, primary winner. It's the
yeah.
young kids saying, we're not going to take this anymore. Bretton Woods promised a world where currency crises and economic nationalism would be a thing of the past, and Gen X got to watch that promise slowly unravel in real time after time after time. But
Good
now we're
times,
on to
right?
drugs.
Yeah. We're done with money. And now, you know what comes next? Drugs.
Sex and drugs and rock and roll.
Thanks, Gen X. On to millennials, July 1st, 1973. This one's for you. The Drug Enforcement Administration is founded, beginning the institutional phase of the war on drugs that millennials inherited and had to reckon with.
Oh, this is millennial history because they came of age watching the DEA's mission completely flip from drugs are destroying society, they'll kill you, we'll put you in jail, to actually, maybe we should decriminalize some of this stuff. It smells great.
Yeah. Millennials grew up with DARE programs telling them that marijuana would ruin their lives, and then watched half the country legalize it while they were in college.
I know, it's confusing. And what makes this so millennial is that they experienced the drug war as both moral panic and, well, policy failure simultaneously.
They're the generation that got arrested for having weed in high school and then watched their parents start CBD businesses and dispensaries.
That's right. What do you think is better? Can you toke on this for a while? Millennials also lived through peak mass incarceration. The jails were filling up. So they understood that the DEA wasn't really about public health, it was about social control.
Yeah, plus they watched the wonderful opioid crisis unfold, while the same government that criminalized marijuana was basically looking the other way, while the Purdue family and the pharmaceutical companies got people addicted to legal drugs.
That's right. Does Sackler sound like Hitler? Aha! You know what gets me about millennials and the DEA? They learned that drug policy is about politics, not science. But they learned it by watching thousands of people unfortunately die from both criminalization and legalizing gone wrong.
Right?
And
They saw
legalization gone wrong.
right? They saw how the drug war devastated communities, but they also saw how drug policy reform could be co-opted by corporate interests.
And you won't get hooked on it, we promise. Absolutely. You
Never.
won't get hooked.
Trust us. Trust us.
I'm a doctor. Trust me. Millennials experienced both just say no and cannabis is medicine as official government messaging, confusing, which taught them to be skeptical of any absolute claim about drug policy. Which is it, Dad?
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about your theories about institutional hypocrisy,
Well,
Dave.
I'm glad you asked, Lane. Look, millennials watched the DEA go from arresting people for marijuana possession to coordinating with state governments on legal cannabis regulation, all while maintaining that they were always protecting public safety. We can make
Yeah,
money off this, tax base.
the really millennial part is that they had to develop harm reduction thinking because they realized that both drugs are always bad and drugs are always fine were oversimplifications.
Yeah, again, confusing. And they're the generation dealing with the practical consequences, criminal justice reform, addiction treatment, drug policy that's evidence based rather than ideology based.
Yeah, the millennials inherited a drug war that everyone acknowledged was failing, and they had to figure out how to end it without making things worse.
Whew, tall order, folks. But let's get
Yeah.
on to event number 3, the Hong Kong
Ooh.
handover for Gen Z. July
The Hong Kong
1st.
handover, Dave?
Yeah, it sounds like something you get at Wendy's. Um, I'll have the Hong Kong handover with the side of fries. Well, it comes with that. Okay.
Or it sounds like
July
a
1st.
one of those secret moves in the bedroom.
I want to watch in Europe. Wow, they're doing the Hong Kong handover. Holy cow. Oh, and there's a trapeze involved in this one, folks.
Oh, all the
July
time, all the
1st.
time. And there's a two-handed and one-handed. So I mean, degree of difficulty changes quite a bit when you're doing the one-handed handover.
Oh, we're not talking about the King Kong handover, the Hong Kong. That's something completely.
Oh, that's a different one.
That's right. That's where you hold a little doll in your hand and climb a building. But I digress. July 1st, 1997, Britain hands Hong Kong, not the holdover, back to China after 156 years, officially ending one of the last major pieces of European colonialism in Asia. Yes, I guess you can have it back now. Maybe. Okay, yes, all right, go ahead, take it.
Yes, this is Gen Z because they're the first generation to grow up understanding globalization as both connection and conflict, democracy as both aspiration and performance.
Gen Z watched the Hong Kong protests of 2014 and 2019 through social media, so they understood immediately that the 1997 handover hadn't actually resolved a thing. It just had delayed the reckoning.
What makes this so Gen Z is that they experienced it as a real time lesson in how quickly democratic freedoms can disappear when geopolitical power shifts.
Oh, we're going to take it over.
Where'd my
And
democracy go?
You can, do all you want, but we're taking it over and you can't do a thing about it. Because Gen Z saw Hong Kong protest because Gen Z saw Hong Kong protesters using the same social media tools they used for everything else and realized that their phones could be both liberation technology and surveillance devices.
Yes. Plus, they watched China's rise happen during their lifetime. So the Hong Kong handover wasn't ancient history, it was the beginning of the world they inherited.
Yes, unfortunately, Gen Z also understood that the Hong Kong handover, great term, was about economic power disguised as political transition. Oh, yeah, everything's going to be the same. Yeah, 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 don't worry about it, which is very much their experience of how everything works.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me, because a lot of things get me, Dave,
I've
what
seen that.
get what gets me about Gen Z and Hong Kong is that they're the first generation to grow up knowing that democracy isn't automatically permanent or self-sustaining.
Yeah, what did Ben Franklin say when the Declaration of Independence was written and somebody said, "Oh, congratulations on your country." And he said, "Well, if you can keep it."
Yeah, democracy is a great form of government as long as you can keep it.
That's right. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
bring me my wine
That's right.
and
I've got
my prostitutes.
and my gout pillow. Right. They watched Hong Kong go from one country, two systems to national security law in real time, while also watching democratic institutions struggle in their own countries.
Yeah, the really Gen Z part is that they understood the Hong Kong protests as both local political resistance and a global symbol of authoritarian pushback against democratic movements everywhere.
That's right. The Arab Spring, as an example. Gen Z learned from Hong Kong that some. Gen Z learned from Hong Kong that sovereignty, democracy, and economic freedom are all separate things that don't necessarily go together.
Yes, Dave has theories about digital age authoritarianism, don't you, Dave?
I do. Look, Gen Z watched Hong Kong protesters get identified through facial recognition. Wear a mask. Saw social media companies cooperate with government surveillance and learn that technology amplifies whatever political system is already in place.
And they're dealing with the aftermath, figuring out how to maintain democratic values in a world where authoritarian governments have the same technology as everyone else.
Ha! The Hong Kong handover taught Gen Z that global politics is personal politics. Because what happens to democratic movements anywhere affects democratic possibilities everywhere. What happens in Hong Kong doesn't necessarily stay in Hong Kong.
Oh my good. Well said, Dave. Well
Thank
said. All of that is making me hungry for some apple cider donuts from
you.
Stu
Ooh.
Leonard's. So let's talk
Mm.
about them because they've been proving that retail can be relationship building since before customer experience was even a business school course.
Ooh, well said. Seriously, though, Stu Leonard's figured out that shopping should feel personal back in 1969 when they were landing people on the moon, folks. They pull their own mozzarella, bake their own bread, and somehow make buying groceries feel like visiting friends who happen to have really good food. Oh, hey, how are you?
Oh, hey there. Yeah, plus their commitment. Are they from Minnesota or something? I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know why that
Well,
came
no,
up.
it's Connecticut, but yeah, they talk like that there too.
Plus their commitment to curation over choice is really genius. 2,000 carefully selected items instead of 40,000 random options all over the place.
Wow.
Sometimes less is really more, just the good stuff.
Yeah, that's what they say about me, Lane. And that customer service philosophy carved into a 3-ton granite rock? Well, there's rule number one: the customer is always right, which should be on everybody's granite rock, right? Rule number two: if the customer is ever wrong, reread rule number one. Hey, simple. That's institutional commitment to treating people well. Damn it.
That's a big statement when you drop a 3-ton granite rock in front of every store. Plus, it's also a logistical nightmare, I think, for somebody. I'm the rock guy for Stu Leonard's. I'll just drop off another rock. Where are we opening the store?
Well, Moses could do it, but of course he could part oceans. Anyway.
Yeah. In a world of algorithmic recommendations and infinite scroll, Stu Leonard's creates actual human experiences with animatronic entertainment and employees who genuinely seem happy to be there. It's not
Mm,
just something you can get on any webpage, folks. You got to visit
mm,
them.
Move over to Stu's, the world's largest purveyor of milk. Visit StuLeonards.com to find your nearest location. Spend $100 and get free ice cream. They got to do something with that milk. Sometimes the best innovation is just being consistently good to people. Like us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stews. And that wraps up July 1st through Three Generational Lenses, an economic conference that created the system that Gen X watched repeatedly fail, a drug enforcement agency that taught millennials to distrust absolute policy claims,
And failed.
and a diplomatic handover that showed Gen Z how quickly democratic freedoms can disappear and fail.
Yeah, which also
and
failed.
fail.
That's right.
Yeah.
Today's episode is all about failing. What's striking is how each generation, well, that's your line. And
But
that
go
is
ahead.
my
Take it.
line. All right.
I
Well,
know.
what's striking is how each generation learned to navigate institutional promises versus institutional performance. But through completely different frameworks and lenses.
Yeah, Gen X learned through economic crises that revealed how global financial systems actually work.
And government.
Millennials learned through policy reversals that showed how political messaging changes while problems persist.
And still do. And Gen X and Gen Z, sorry, Z, as they say in England, learned through real time digital coverage of democratic backsliding that taught them political freedom requires constant active protection.
But they all developed similar skills institutional skepticism combined with practical engagement, understanding that systems are only as good as the people running them.
That's right.
So I say, let's elect convicted felons, right?
Oh, they.
Let's put them in charge of the system. Everything will be fine.
That's right. It's the fox guarding the henhouse theory. And whether it's navigating economic instability, drug policy reform, or democratic fragility, each generation had to become sophisticated analysts of how power actually works versus how it's supposed to work.
Thanks for joining us on Touring History X, Y, and Z. Remember, Stu Leonard's has been creating genuine customer relationships since 1969, proof that some things never go out of style.
Like this show. Next week, we're covering July 2nd, and spoiler alert, it involves both a presidential assassination and the invention of something that changed how we think about flight. Chew on
The,
that for a while,
the
will you?
stewardess?
Yeah. Oh, well, don't chew on that. But
Until then, question everything. Trust your sources if you've investigated them. And remember, institutions only work if people make them work.
so get out there and make them work, people. I'm
Yeah.
Dave,
And I'm Lane
and we'll see you next time.
on Touring History X, Y, and Z.
Zed. See ya.
Bye.